Hey everybody, it's Carm here. A little something for Tink here. Something she had recently shown. Yeah, back on after a little bit. I think I'm reminded of how long it's been since I'd done one of these. My tripod is still out here in the same spot that it had been from the last video. And yeah, wanted to come out. It's a gorgeous day, and first and foremost, though, I want to thank everyone for your very kind words regarding Fuzzy. It's really not the same without him at all, but I'm going to focus as much as possible on the gratitude for having him as long as I did, nearly 2 decades. So, it's about the most you could hope for. And his partner's fine, director, and looking forward to being back in front of or behind the camera soon. So yeah, it's fine with all that. So much I've wanted to come on and share and talk about. It's kind of been building up lately, but wanted to come on and talk about an particular artist that has been giving me a great deal of kind of comfort and solace lately. And we know we could all, I'm sure the way of the world lately, we could all really use more of that. But someone I've meant to come on and talk about for a while. And I'd started a series about a year ago, which I thought I would have done more by now on, but kind of continuing it now with showing 5 albums of an artist's discography that would maybe serve as a decent overview and introduction to their work. That's Danny Heines, a guitarist, composer, multi-instrumentalist, but really a guitarist over, in general, both on electric and acoustic. It might be cheating in a way too, since to the best of my knowledge, I think he only made 5 proper studio albums. So maybe a few compilations he played on, but either way, it's an artist I want to focus on a little bit here. I try not to take too long with all of this, but I haven't been able to find a great deal of information on him. He grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, a very musical family. His mother was a concert promoter in that area at the time. I'm thinking maybe late 60s, early 70s. Not exactly sure of when he was born, but he was exposed directly to, artists, such as Duke Ellington, all the way to King Crimson, Frank Zappa, all kinds of things. So, and you could hear in his music, there's definitely shadings of all kinds of influences. If you like some of the Windham Hill guitarists, like Michael Hedges, Alex DeGrassi, Michael in particular, as well as others like Scott Huckabee, it definitely has that kind of approach, being able to make the guitar sound like it's 2 or 3 guitars played at once, but oftentimes it's his they call it the tapping technique, 2-hand tapping technique, but also adapting it and blending it with jazzier, more improvisational styles, as well as approaches from all over the world. Each album also kind of it's like he's increasingly moving throughout the world with each release in some ways. And I'd first heard him, I'm sure, on WNUA, way back when, late grade school, early high school, and he's even appeared a little bit on Starstreams, which may have likely been my introduction to him. But yeah, starting in, we have 1986 Aqua Touch on Silver Wave Records, a label that he recorded with for I think much of his output is on this label. And there he is at the time, and you could already hear his blending of primarily on here. It's primarily acoustic, the kind of acoustic impressionistic feel with jazzier and more improvisational approaches. Paul McCandless, among others, joins him on here on soprano sax, the great woodwind player from Oregon, as well as Eugene Friesen on cello, and Glenn Velez on frame drum. And Overall, the album has a real breezy feeling. I would say it's light without necessarily being lightweight. You could hear substance definitely below the surface of something that might sound a little more background-like. With his own guitar playing, which has a very distinctive pattern, rhythmically and melodically, and the way he blends with the others. A lot of what he's doing here is, solo, and it's very subdued and quiet, and very much like the cover and the title. Kind of a sense of kind of ebb and flow, and kind of being out on the sea. Very dreamy overall. And if you look really closely, you can see a guitar in there. It's kind of the music in a sense. It's almost like you're seeing, kind of hearing the music through gauze in a way, like just kind of, it's just, almost just a lot of subtlety just with what he's doing. And it's a very nice debut, and you could really hear where he's about to go from here. And yeah. Aqua Touch from 1986. Yeah, that quote kind of sums up the sound of the music in some ways as well. Chungzu. And next up from 1988, there's Every Island, also on the same label. And on here he's going even more into a jazzier direction, a little more ensemble based with the group. Again, he's joined by Paul McCandless, a soprano, sax, and oboe. And I didn't mention on the previous one, a fellow named Kip Kuiper, playing bass. Yeah, bass guitar, keyboards, sequencer programming, and voice. Also, as well, there's some wordless vocals on here, which he was introducing into the mix overall, using the voice as an instrument. Both from himself and other players here, and also joined by Cafe, who's a Brazilian percussionist, played on a lot of different albums. But this album is overall even more dynamic than the previous one. Again, hearing jazzier influences, even a little more Latin, as he's kind of sounds like he's moving throughout the world with each release. Kind of a lot of bossa nova feel overall to it, but again he's adding a little bit more electric, kind of like pictured here, and you hear a little bit more of a not exactly traditional jazz, but going slightly more in that direction at times. And yeah, again, just more of a overall of like a band feel to it, as well as a couple solo guitar pieces where again you could kind of hear that that approach where he kind of makes it sound it's like there's more than one instrument there, as he incorporates it further along. I really like all of his covers. Just kind of like the music itself, deceptively simple statement, but always a little bit more happening there. We have Every Island from 1988. Now this next one here, I don't know if I'd say it's my favorite. I actually like each album as it goes more than the previous one, although I'd say this would be the go-to album if I had to pick one that I listen to often the most, and as well as this was my introduction to him way back when. One Heart Wild, 1990. Pretty sure this is one I had heard on NUA quite a bit. Now this one really sounds like a real developing band sound overall. Previously it was more like him with, not so much with accompaniment. There was a great deal of interplay, but on here it's really like a unified band, even more solid and rooted. And again, Paul McCandless is on here, as well as William Kennedy on drums, if you know him from the Yellow Jackets. So that really adds a great deal to it as well. Vicki Randall on voice, who again adding even more in terms of vocals, the wordless vocals as an instrument. And of course Kip is back on bass. The piece Where Eyes Converge is the one I'd first heard way back when on Starstreams, where he also adds, he's also a flute player, didn't mention a bamboo flute. So you have a nice mixture of the ethereal and the earthy and the more grounded. And I really like this piece, Another Time, which really kind of brings to mind, for me at least, latter-day Oregon, kind of what they've done over the last couple decades, playing in something of a deceptively more traditional jazz quartet approach. But on here, you could hear he's kind of moving a little bit more in that direction, at least with certain pieces. But this would be a great place to start if you want to hear him in the context of, you'd say more of like a fully fleshed out band. This would be a really nice thing to get into. It says One Heart Wild from 1990. And next up, we're jumping ahead a few years to 1995. Vanishing Borders. Showing that. And still on Silver Wave, like the previous ones. As the covers might imply, this is even more guitar oriented, really focusing much more on his playing in and of itself, even pointing out in the notes how a lot of these are recorded without overdubs, the guitar parts, and you really hear his technique, really flourishing. It never sacrifices the sense of narrative. It's just as emotional and compelling as it is technical. Using the technique, utilizing it to really tell a story, and really goes in a different direction style-wise. Still jazzy, but it sounds like he's moving, as far as influences from around the world, moving further east, kind of in Eastern Europe and even a bit of the Middle and Near East. And on here, joined by players he had for a while, back with Kip. Also Vicky Randall on voice. Really, even more than the previous album, is really showing. The vocals overall have even more range and more dynamics, and just the whole tonal palette is really extended here. Sounds of the environment here, and but yeah, Danny's really getting further and further into, again, that technique of sounding like it's more than one instrument being played at a time, but taking it further out and still telling a very compelling and evocative story, with each piece. I really like the pieces, especially Kissing Lightning and Dogs in Church, which are probably about the funkiest things I'd heard him do up to this point. Very groove oriented, with very light and playful, without being overly, arch, I guess you might say. Yeah, Dogs in Church is very fun. Really nice blend of. It's almost like everything's being thrown into the pot. All these various influences, or many of them. That's a really nice little piece there. A Piano Between Us is particularly beautiful, as it features the late great David Darling, which I think might have been the only time they, or at least one of the few times they collaborated on record. Just gorgeous, the overlaying of cellos with guitar and flugelhorn. And you could say it's suitably mournful in a sense, being that David, we lost him in the last year or so. So that was a beautiful touch there. And the rest of the album is more or less him playing solo, or with sparse accompaniment. And again, you hearing his even more distinctive guitar approach than ever. Yeah, if you're a guitar fan, this would be a really nice one. If you really want to square in, on his instrument and his approach. And again, mentioning people like Michael Hedges and Scott Huckabee, if you like them, this is a really nice one to hear for that. But yeah, it's a really nice, dynamic, just great energy on this one. Yeah, Vanishing Borders in 1995. And finally here, from 2001, What Worlds They Bring. And to the best of my knowledge, I think this is, I don't know if he's recorded anything solo-wise after this, at least that came out, on CD. But On here he's again moving even deeper into territories from different parts of the world. There's Russian and Hungarian folk songs, as well as samples from different parts of the world, utilizing throat singing. He himself, the Tuvan technique, he pointed out on here. Yeah, throat singing is a technique in which a single pitch is held while the overtones of that note are manipulated to create melody. I love Tuvan overtone throat singing music, if you're familiar with that, or that of Mongolian singers or Tibetan. It's just an extraordinary technique, and it's very just goes so deep and evocative. The way he does it, of course, as with everything else, he really makes it his own. There's a piece on here, Finding Senatrevo, where it's the first time I'd ever heard that singing technique really kind of as an earworm, like that you would associate more with a pop song, but he somehow makes it so catchy and accessible, but yet still, the substance of the piece is still there, along with his guitar and just the ensemble overall. Again, rhythmic and very playful, but also with great respect for the technique and the traditions that he is drawing from, which you really hear it throughout the album. Also playing Benzuri flute on other pieces, and there's a variety. There's several singers on here: Irina Mikhailova, Yashara, and Tina Malia. And as often as not, they're either singing lyrics from the traditional folk songs or the wordless vocals, but it's really used to even deeper effect on this album. And this is one I'd really, I'd say this is probably his most, for me, his most vibrant album, and this might become the go-to album. This is actually the most recent one I've had in the collection, so this one it gets better with each one, from my own taste, and for again, as a representation of what all the things that he does, and the way he incorporates all these different influences, and again, a guitar style that's definitely his. So Worlds They Bring, 2001. Recommended as are all these for just the various things that he does. So a little Danny Heines there. I'll leave some samples in the notes, links to listen further. Hope you enjoy whatever you hear, and so back on it for a little while. I figured that was be a good one to return with, just an artist I've go pretty far back with. So as ever, I thank you all for being here with me, and again for your kind words, and just extend and spread the best of ourselves as we can. Because again, the world definitely needs it now. I hope we're all well, and till the next one. Peace, love, and joy.